Every time I finish up at work, I look freaking homeless because I have like my life packed away in my car. People judging me. But I wanted to tell a story. One of my favorite stories about like everything happening for a reason. And like I have told this a couple times before, and it's quite a long story, but I do enjoy telling it because it's just such a random chain of events that happened to me. So I thought I'd document and finally like put it into a video. But when I was 21, I decided that I wanted to go on a 3-month trip to America. Actually, I decided this when I was 18. So when I was 18, I loved it so much that I decided, okay, when I'm 21, that's like the drinking age in America, I can actually go and enjoy it. So I decided, my goal is like save up, quit my job, and 3 months is the longest that you can go on a tourist visa. So 3 months in America. And I booked the first month and I kind of winged the rest of it, which I tend to do when I travel. But this is the end of my trip. So basically went away for 3 months, had the time of my life, and it was like the last, like I think maybe 5 days of my trip where all this happened. And pretty much it was just like a snowball of things going wrong, but ending up working out. So pretty much it started, I was in New York at the time, and I had booked a frequent flyer ticket from New York to Vegas, and then I was making my way from Vegas to LA to fly home back to Sydney from LA. So my flight, I kept just connecting it to a Tuesday. I was like, I'm flying on Tuesday to Vegas, flying on Tuesday. So on the Monday, I went to check in for my flight, and it was like, you can't check in. And I was like, that's weird. Like, why is it saying I can't check in? So I looked at the details, and it was like the date and the day of Monday was my flight. And I'm thinking that it was the Tuesday. And like, I was a travel agent before this. Like, I'm good with stuff like that. Like, I know like my attention to detail is quite good. But in my head, instead of saying like the date, I just kept thinking, Tuesday I'm flying. But, so anyways, I missed the flight. But what happened was, because I'd booked it with frequent flight tickets. Oh, and sorry, I should add. So I had no money. Like, this was the end of a 3-month trip. I barely even had money on the trip, let alone like at the end of the trip. So like, I don't even know. I don't know how much money I had. Maybe like, I don't know, $100 or so, but like not enough for like a flight. Anyways, so I luckily had booked the ticket with frequent flyer ticket points, and I had points still left. So I called up and I was like, look, this is what's happened. I don't know who does that. I didn't know what day I was flying on. I missed my flight. Can I change it? Like, how do I, whatever. Anyway, she's like, you're in luck. There's a flight tomorrow, and we can just use like frequent flyer points to change the flight to tomorrow's flight. And it was like 5,000 points or whatever. So rather than having to pay, I just got to use my points. So like, 1, luckily I had points left over. 2, luckily I'd booked that flight with points. And 3, I'm lucky that I could get on the flight that next day, because the thing was like, I had to be in LA for the flight, whatever day it was, because that was my 90 days. Like, if I didn't fly on that day, I overstayed my visa. So like, I needed to go home on like that particular day. So I think I maybe had like 1 day in between, and that had made that 1 day. So like, say for example, I was meant to fly from LA to Sydney on the Wednesday. I thought I was going to travel on the Monday, and it ended up that I booked it. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Fucking, you know what I mean. Anyways, so Monday I was flying. Tuesday was the day in between, and Wednesday I would have gone back to Sydney. Whereas then it ended up being Tuesday, flew to Vegas, and then from Vegas to LA, and then LA home on the Wednesday. And then, anyways, so that all worked out. I was in New York. I went that next day, the Tuesday, whatever day it was, to the airport, and I flew to Vegas. So when I got to Vegas, I met up with like a friend that I'd met at the start of my trip, and she basically picked me up from the airport, and then we were arranging for me to get from Vegas to LA. So I was getting like a private transfer bus thing. So chilled with her. We called this place. We were like, yep, we need to book this bus for this afternoon, whenever it was, from Vegas to LA. So booked the bus over the phone, and we rocked up to like the site where it left from, and the bus was like, we don't have your booking, like who are you, like your name's not on the list. And I'm like, what the fuck, we just called earlier and we booked the trip. And they're like, no, like we don't have a reservation for you, blah blah blah. And I waited, like I don't know what happened, or like whether it was booked under a different name or whatever. They were telling me that I couldn't get on this bus, it was full. And again, I'm like, what the fuck? I need to get to LA for this particular date because I need to fly back to Sydney. Anyway, so waited around, I don't know how long. And they're like, okay, I don't know what's happened. Like your name's not on the list, but there is a seat. So you can take the seat and you can travel. So ended up getting on the transfer. Okay, all sweet, no worries. So got into LA eventually, and again I met up with some friends that I'd met at the start of the trip. So they come and pick me up from the train station, and we went and got In-N-Out Burger from near the airport in LA, because pretty much it was like hanging out with them, and then I had to go and get on my flight. So we parked up the car, we went to In-N-Out, we hung out for like quite a while, and then I was like, okay, I probably should go to the airport now. We go outside and the car's not there. We're like, where the fuck is the car? And so we realized that she'd parked in a tollway zone and the car had been towed. And in my head I was like, fuck it, I don't care about my luggage, you know, I just get me to the airport, I'll catch a taxi. My passport was in the car, so we had to find the car because I could not travel back to Sydney without the passport. So what happened was we tried to call the number on the sign saying like where the car had been towed to, but it wasn't working. So we ended up asking like the car park. There was like an airport car park nearby, and just so happened that their towing company, it was the same. So luckily as well, the car got towed like close by, like it was still within like, I don't know, 20 minutes of wherever the airport was. So here I am, like however many hours, a few hours before my flight. We called an Uber to where the car was towed to so I could get my luggage from the car and my passport. And then I like straight away had to leave and then get to the airport for this flight. And anyway, so eventually, yep, that all worked out. Oh, sweet, no worries. Made it to the airport in time. Finally, I'm going home. Finally, get on this flight. And so it was just I think I was with Qantas, like directly Vegas to Sydney. So finally get on this flight. Yeah, sweet, no worries. We're about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours into the flight. And they're like, we have to make an emergency stop. There's a guy that's like dying, basically. Like, we can't continue the flight anymore. We have to get this passenger off the plane. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, finally I was like, okay, I'm on this flight, I'm going home, like that's it. Like, how does this happen? I don't know. So we had to stop in Hawaii to let the passenger off the plane. But what happened is, like in Hawaii they have like a no-fly zone time, whatever, like in Australia. So I think what happened, once we landed, let him off, we were meant to go again and we missed the slot, whatever it was. Ended up on the fucking tarmac for like, 10 hours or something, 8 hours, whatever it was. At this point I was like, get me the fuck home. Like, all these things just happened at the end of my trip, and I was like, again, everything worked out. It was sweet. Like, that's my luck. Like, everything always works out. And this is kind of the moral of the story, this real life story that happened to me that sounds like a fucking made up thing. Anyways, everything worked out, but in my head I was like, that all happened for a reason, because when I come back to Sydney, I was like kissing the tarmac. Like, I was like, I am home, thank fuck, after all that shit, you know, everything worked out, but still, like, it made me appreciate, like, being back home and actually, like, want to be home. But the reason that I thought that was, like, all meant to happen, I was away for 3 months. I was, like, living my best life in America, and I loved America at the time. That was, like, my favorite place. And so, like, realistically, I should have been, like, depressed. Like, I would be really upset that I'm going home. Like, you know, what's life going to be like back at home, blah, 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 blah. Be, like, super depressed. I didn't get to have that depressed feeling because I was, like, so stressed out about the end of my trip and, like, everything that happened. I was just so grateful to be back and back in Australia, back home. And it just shifted my whole mindset. So that's why I feel like everything that happened, unfortunately, unluckily, but luckily, it all happened for the reason of making me shift my mindset of being, like, appreciative of being home and not depressed and, like, in this mood of, like, oh my god, look, this is, like, my life now, blah blah blah. So yeah, I wanted to share that story because I kind of got a bit of inspiration recently about, like, speaking about manifestation and things that I've manifested, and I really wish that I've, like, saved more of the things that have happened to me. But like I said, this is a story that I like to tell because the way I think of my luck is, like, I'm, like, unlucky, but I am lucky. Everything always works out, and this is, like, makes my belief of, like, manifestation and everything just, like, ingrained in me because that's just my luck. Like, everything always works out. So yeah, I just thought I'd share. Hopefully that was entertaining, and I'm glad I got to share that with more people than the few people that I've actually got to tell before. But take care. Bye for now.